Akawu tells us that we can only judge a revolutionary based on his or her revolutionary specialty. If we have a teacher, for example, that is an expert in auto mechanics, and we find out that that teacher has a gambling problem, we can't afford to exile the teacher because he or she is a gambler. That teacher's worth is in what he or she can teach us about mechanics. That's all. So it would be a mistake for us to expect anything from that person but what he or she has to offer our people. If someone has an idea that can benefit the people, the idea is bigger than the individual that has the idea. So if the individual doesn't live up to your moral standards or expectations, that doesn't eliminate the person's worth to the movement. That person's worth or expertise is greater than his or her perceived flaws. There is clearly counterintelligence that has been put in place to hinder the progress of the black independence movement. So we have to be careful not to let that counterintelligence prevent us from doing the work that is necessary to take our people from a position of serving our enemy's agenda of dominance to a commitment to serve our own agenda of freedom and independence. The President of the United States just told us, I think it was yesterday, that they as black, brown, red, yellow, and white supremacists will continue to use their military arsenal to combat their enemies. And their enemies are anyone that threatens their domination over the world, including you. He also stated that in addition to using arms against their enemies, including you, they will also be using methods that require them to discredit your black liberation ideology in order to prevent the masses from joining the fight for black liberation. Sometimes you gotta read in between the lines. He said there's a larger battle for the hearts and minds of the people. Their goal is to prevent young people from being recruited into the black liberation movement. These people don't want you to be free. A slave has always helped to line the pockets of the slave master. We are their insurance policy, because when all else fails for them, they know that as a slave, we will always give them our money or wealth in exchange for white supremacy amenities, most of which are unnecessary and self-destructive comforts and sense pleasures. Now, I've heard some very disturbing blog talk radio shows lately that have been solely dedicated to defaming and exposing the flaws in so-called black conscious leaders, revolutionaries in the black power movement, and freedom fighters in the black supremacy movement. These radio shows are serving as tools, as Barack Obama said, to prevent the masses from joining the fight for black liberation. They are attempting to show the masses that the people in this movement are no different from the people that work to sustain white supremacy. I heard one story that one of our leaders smokes weed. And because he smokes weed, he's not qualified to lead our people. I heard another story that one of our leaders was jet skiing and hang gliding while he was in the Caribbean on official black liberation business. And of course, we've all heard the story of the black leader that allegedly had sex or wanted to have sex with a stripper. Are you telling me that someone that smokes weed, that fights in the black liberation army, is the same as someone that smokes weed and fights in the army of white supremacy? Are you not aware that business conferences don't last all day? I'm talking about this Caribbean, this person that was jet skiing and hang gliding in the Caribbean while he was down there on black liberation business. These conferences don't last all day long. Are you not aware that there's a lot of downtime at these conferences? As a manager and director for many years, I've been to many conferences. And you might be at a conference for several days or a week. But each day, you may be taking care of business for 6 to 8 hours. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. The rest of the time, you're generally free to do whatever you want to do. That's not scandalous, and that's not controversial. How many of you would be squeaky clean if we put your entire life under a microscope? How many of you have a little dirt on you, something that nobody knows about you except your inner circle? How many of you have a perfect behavioral record? I don't, and I don't pretend to be flawless. But my flaws don't prevent me from working for black freedom, for black liberation. And I'm not going to allow you to use my flaws to prevent me from working for black liberation. And flaws shouldn't prevent you from working for the people. You shouldn't be trying to disallow someone else from doing the work that many of our people are afraid to do. Here these people are putting their lives in jeopardy, working behind enemy lines in hostile environments, risking their flaws being put out there in front of the whole world to see, and to have every step they make be criticized by those of us and you that are afraid to even take one step for black liberation. And you allow yourself to be used by counter-black liberation intelligence to discredit these freedom fighters. The only thing you're exposing is the flaws in human nature. And human nature doesn't need you to expose flaws that have always existed. If you need a perfect freedom fighter, then be a perfect freedom fighter. And stop looking for perfection outside of yourself. This has been Daku Akawu.